I remember the exact moment everything shifted. Not because of something dramatic, but because of silence. The kind of silence that wraps around you at the end of a long day, cold, heavy, embarrassing. I was standing in the middle of the university auditorium, still wearing my gown, still holding the cap in my hands, watching every other graduate pose with their families for photos, hugs, and flowers. Moms crying, dads recording everything, siblings cheering like it was a championship. And then there was me, standing alone in row 7, pretending to scroll on my phone so no one would notice that the seats reserved for my family were untouched. 4 chairs, neatly labeled with their names. Completely empty. One of the ushers walked by and whispered, "Are they running late?" I smiled like it didn't hurt. No, they're just busy. Busy. That was always the word. Busy when I needed a ride to school. Busy when I had award ceremonies. Busy when I got sick. Busy when I won scholarships. Busy for everything, except when they needed something from me. I waited 30 minutes after the ceremony ended. People left in groups. Graduates hugged their families, took pictures with faculty, celebrated with friends. I just kept pretending I wasn't waiting for anyone. When the auditorium finally emptied, I walked out slowly, like maybe I'd see their car pulling up. Maybe I'd hear someone call my name. Nothing. Not even a text. I drove home with the radio off. It felt like if I heard one happy song, I'd break. A week passed. Maybe I expected some kind of explanation. An apology. Sorry we missed it. Congratulations, we're proud of you. But nothing came, until that one text. I was in my kitchen, making dinner, when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Mom. The message wasn't, "How was graduation?" or, "We're proud." It was, "We need $1,500 for your sister's Sweet 16. Transfer ASAP." No greeting. No emotion. Just a demand. I stared at the phone for a long second, letting the disappointment settle before it turned into something sharper. Something electric. Then I transferred exactly $1. With the note. Priorities, right. It took her less than 3 minutes to explode. Message after message. Guilt-tripping. Insults. Manipulation. Threats. The whole script. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I blocked her number, changed the locks, deactivated the shared key access they had to my house, and finally, cut the last string they'd been pulling on me for years. But toxic people don't go quietly. They go loud, and messy, and dramatic. The next morning, at 7:42 a.m., there was a heavy knock at my door. Not a neighbor's knock. Not a delivery. A police knock. 2 officers stood on my porch. "Are you?" one of them asked. My stomach tightened. "Yes." "What's this about?" "We received a report from your family," he said. "They're alleging financial exploitation and withholding shared property. We need to ask you some questions." It was absurd. Laughable, even. If it hadn't hurt so much. I invited them inside. They were calm, professional. They asked their questions, and I answered everything. I pulled out receipts, years of messages where my family demanded money, threatened me emotionally, and treated me like their personal ATM. The officers exchanged that familiar look. The one that says, "Yeah, we've seen this before." By the time they left, the fear was gone. Replaced by something colder, sharper. They wanted a fight. Fine. But they had no idea what I had saved over the years. I went through old emails, bank statements, papers buried in folders. And that's when I found it, proof of credit cards opened in my name when I was underage. Loans I never authorized, bills signed with my identity. Identity theft, fraud, financial manipulation, and years of emotional abuse documented in text. But I didn't strike immediately. No, revenge works best when it's slow, steady, suspenseful. So I went silent. That silence burned them more than any words could. They called from different numbers. I didn't answer. They sent long paragraphs on Facebook. I didn't read them. They used relatives' phones. I blocked them all. My sister DM'd me, crying about how I ruined her birthday. Mom sent voice messages about family loyalty. Dad sent one sentence, "You're making a mistake." Maybe I would have believed that once. Not anymore. The real twist came when my cousin texted me out of nowhere. "They're telling everyone you stole family money. They're posting about you in the community groups. They say police are after you." Perfect. Because I needed witnesses. I needed documentation. I needed their lies recorded. And they handed me everything on a silver platter. Screenshots, voice notes, text chains. I saved it all. Then I filed a complete report. Identity theft, fraud, defamation, emotional exploitation. The investigator reviewing my case actually paused and said, "How long has this been going on?" "Years," I said. He nodded slowly. "You've been patient." Patient wasn't the word. Conditioned was closer. Weeks passed, and I felt lighter every day, like every hour of silence was reclaiming a piece of me. Then, one random afternoon, it happened. I wasn't even there, but my cousin recorded everything for me. 3 police cars pulled up to my parents' house. Officers went inside. Raised voices followed. Mom crying dramatically. Dad arguing. My sister screaming on the porch. They weren't arrested, but the consequences hit harder than handcuffs ever could. Every account linked to the fraudulent activity. Frozen. Credit cards. Locked. Tax records. Flagged for investigation. And every bill they'd shoved under my name. Sent back to them, with late fees. Overnight, their perfect family image crumbled. Neighbors whispered. Relatives distanced themselves. People stopped believing their stories. But here's the truth. The investigation wasn't the real revenge. The financial collapse wasn't the real revenge. The public embarrassment wasn't the real revenge. The real revenge was watching them realize something they had never faced before. I wasn't theirs to control anymore. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their wallet. I wasn't their emotional punching bag. They needed me. I didn't need them. Months passed. The investigation dragged on, draining their bank accounts, their stress levels, their reputation. Not one person defended them. Everyone had known for years what kind of people they were, they just needed proof. And I gave them proof. Calmly, quietly, perfectly. When my mom finally sent her last message, one of those weak apologies that only show up when consequences arrive, I didn't even bother replying. Because my revenge wasn't explosive. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was clean. It was quiet. It was deserved. One afternoon, I stood outside on my porch, diploma in my hand, the sun warming my face. And I felt something I'd never felt before. Total freedom, not just from them, but from the version of myself that still hoped they'd be better. They wanted to call the cops on me. They wanted to play the victim. In the end, the law didn't save them. It exposed them. And I finally got my life back.